Good evening. Welcome to the November 12th, 2019 meeting of Pequannock Township Council. Ms. Marsh?
In accordance with the requirements of New Jersey's Open Public Meetings Act, notice of this meeting was included in the annual meeting notice, which was filed in the office of the Township Clerk, posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, published as a legal notice in the Suburban Trends newspaper, and distributed to all persons requesting notice in accordance with Township policy.
Please join me for our Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a prayer and a moment of thanks for individuals serving our nation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Most gracious Providence, we ask that you bless this governing body with an abundance of wisdom and understanding, so that every deliberation will result in actions which will promote the common good and the general welfare for all the people of Pequannock Township. Amen.
Amen. Ms. Marsh, please call the roll.
Mrs. Florence Lynch?
Here.
Mr. Hurd?
Here.
Mr. Phelan?
Here.
Mrs. Russell?
Here.
Mayor Cole?
Here. Next on the agenda is presentations, and we have Alec Mitiga from Crew Engineering for the draft on the sewer master plan. Alec.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm good, thanks.
All right.
Good evening. I'll start with the best news. The sewer master plan update has already paid for itself, and every year moving forward you'll save about $50,000 through the effort that was made as part of the evaluation process. The other good news is that based on our evaluation, we believe that there's enough reserve sewer capacity to sewer the majority or possibly all of the remainder of the township. And I'll go through the report and explain both of those items in more detail. So the sewer master plan was last updated in 2003, and at that time there were 10 projects that were identified by the health department and the township staff that were priorities based on environmental, public health, and redevelopment factors. Since that time, 6 of those projects have been constructed. Another 2 are designed but not yet constructed.
Those 2 are Route 23 and...
So Route 23 was actually 2 projects that's currently designed, and then the 2 that are not yet designed are 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th Street, and then a section of Jacksonville Road. So the purpose of this study was to determine how much sewer capacity was left for additional development. So one of the items that we looked at first was back in 2003 when the last sewer master plan was updated, the Two Bridges Sewerage Authority, who's the sewerage authority that receives the majority of Pequannock's wastewater, they were using theoretical numbers that the State Department of Environmental Protection has developed to determine billing records. And so that, for example, each house is supposed to contribute 300 gallons a day of wastewater to a sewer system. Commercial property contributes 1 gallon per day for every 10 square feet of commercial property. And so those are estimates when you design a project to make sure that the sewer is adequately sized, so it's not going to have backups. But at that time, Two Bridges was also using it to determine how much they were charging the various municipalities. In 2007, they discontinued that practice and started using actual sewer metered records to determine the billing. And what we found at that time is that the theoretical numbers that the state had created were very conservative in Pequannock's case. Not quite double, but maybe 60% higher. And so what that did at that time is where you thought you were using this much flow based on Two Bridges calculations, it was actually this much. And so that difference turned into reserve capacity, which you can use for sewering different areas. And then what we did was we looked at all of the water billing records which we received from the utility department, and we wanted to just cross-check those against Two Bridges meters to see if there was any discrepancies. And we found that in 2018 and 2019 there was a pretty significant discrepancy. We discussed that with Two Bridges, and they said that it was due to inflow and infiltration, which is either rainwater entering the sewers or it could be groundwater either from sump pumps or cracks in the sewer pipes. In 2018 and the first part of 2019 were historically wet periods, and they attributed that additional, the difference in the flow to that groundwater and rainwater. And we discussed with them whether or not they had evaluated their trunk lines that run through Pequannock for any types of cracks or damage, and they indicated that they had checked the pipes in 2017, which happened to be a dry time where you'd expect less inflow infiltration, and they did not see any. But they did say that they did see some cracks in pipes, which they would repair. They didn't give any schedule, and they did not, they wouldn't make any commitment to reevaluate now that the ground had more groundwater in it. So they did make a commitment, though, that they would repair those identified issues, but we don't know when. So the inflow and infiltration into your system, we estimated is costing about $70,000 to over $400,000 a year, depending on what the weather conditions are like. In drier years, there's less inflow and infiltration, so the cost of treating that is less. In wetter periods, it's higher when the groundwater is higher and more water entering the pipe. So as part of the evaluation, we were going to different locations in the township and looking at the existing sewer infrastructure so that we could lay out proposed future sewers. And as part of that process, we found 5 manholes that had quite a substantial amount of water coming into the pipes. And we discussed it with the Department of Public Works, and they hired a sewer contractor they inject this chemical grout into the cracks and seal that so that it stops those leaks. And based on the estimates, that's probably by now has saved about $30,000, and then each year it'll vary based on the weather conditions, but on average it would be approximately $50,000, and that continues every year from now on. So over the years, the township has acquired 1.25 million gallons a day of sewer capacity from the Two Bridges Sewerage Authority. The current flow that Two Bridges is metering is about 900,000 gallons a day. Last year was a little over 1 million gallons a day, and those are the 2 years that we said were historically wet, and that's why the flow was higher. Typically, it's around 600,000 or 700,000 gallons a day. Right. And then the balance between that and the 1.25 million gallons is the reserve capacity that you still have. So we looked at the water records for the entire township, not only the sewered areas. And what we noticed is since 2010, there's been a pretty steady decrease in the water usage in the winter when there's no irrigation. And so you can use that as an estimate of how much water would be going into the sewers. If you're not using it for irrigation, you're using it for laundry or cooking, and it goes into the sewers. So that is dipped below the 1.25 million gallon reserve allocation that you have.
So Alex, let me just stop you for a second.
Yes.
So you looked at the entire township water usage?
Yes.
But there's only certain sections that are using sewer.
Correct.
So why would you use the entire township?
Because we wanted to see in the future if hypothetically the entire township was connected to the sewers, whether you'd have enough capacity for that, or if you'd need additional capacity.
So you said that we average about 900,000 gallons a day.
That's what Two Bridges metered for the first half of 2019. And so of the properties that are currently connected to the sewer, their water usage is only about 600,000 gallons a day. So that extra 300,000 is the inflow and infiltration.
So they did not give you a timeline for fixing this?
No.
I'll have a meeting tomorrow. I'll find out if they're going to fix it.
Okay.
When did you have this discussion with them?
I believe it was in August.
Okay, because not a word has come out from them in our meetings about this.
Yeah, it's something that they should definitely look into because it's costing you money.
There's a cost involved in it, obviously. Okay, sorry, Alex.
That's okay. So the usage for the entire township of water during the winter is currently below the 1.25 million gallon allocation that you have. So if there was no inflow and infiltration, you'd have enough capacity to sewer the entire township. Realistically, that's never going to happen. There's always going to be some inflow and infiltration into the system. So if it's a drier year, on paper, you have more reserve capacity, and if it's a wetter year, you have less. But we looked at about 15 or 20 years worth of data, and using more conservative estimates, you have enough reserve capacity to sewer roughly 40% of the remaining township, and using more aggressive estimates, you could have about enough capacity for 75 or more percent of the remaining township to be sewered. And
I
then,
don't think we can afford it.
no, not that it would be, just looking at a purely allocation basis.
What's the average efficiency of a system? So in other words, what is acceptable as far as infiltration? Is it like 10%, 20%? Because we're like at 50%.
Yeah, 50% is really high. If you can get down to around 20%, that would be very good.
And where would that be in town? And where's the normal places where it comes in?
So it can,
It's going to be the trunk lines, the big lines.
older sewers are definitely somewhere to target, because newer sewers, when they're properly installed and inspected, are less likely to have any leaks. But older sewers, they're mostly in the southwestern area of the township, or the older sewers, so that would be a good place to look first.
Where Dave lives.
Well, I think, Ryan, we need to start budgeting in every budget that we move forward, some funds for, to at least start looking. Putting a camera down and
For every dollar we put in, most likely we'll get $3 back.
Well, the TVSA should look at the trunk lines first.
Yeah, and to Alex's point, it's not something that's first encountered by the Township of Pequannock. There's a way to strategically go through low-hanging fruit, which we've obviously already addressed. You identified it, you fixed the one manhole, and you just aggressively move forward in terms of other ways you can address it. So that is something we're discussing.
Interesting.
So we looked at a proposed sewer plan of where different sewers would be constructed and at what depths, so that there's a plan moving forward that if someone wants to connect to the sewer, they're not doing something that only benefits them but then hurts people further down the road. So that every bit of infrastructure that goes in benefits everyone that could connect further up the road from them. And so we created a plan that's included in this draft report, and identifies where we think it would be beneficial to put in a pump station rather than having excessively deep sewers. And then we also put in the report the different procedures for sewer expansion, whether it be by a developer, a resident acting as a developer, residents petitioning the governing body for sewer extension, or the township initiating sewer extensions on their own, such as for different priority areas. So the current code references to those different means for sewer extensions are explained in here, so that anyone looking at the report would be able to find those references. And then additionally, there will be an appendix which would have all of the sewer construction and testing requirements. Currently, it's in the code. We thought it would be beneficial, and the references in the code are older references. I think they're like in the 80s, so we thought it would be easier to have the latest standards in the appendix. That way, when things change, you don't have to amend the code. You could just make revisions to the appendix of this report. And then we just roughed out, there's roughly 2,300 properties that are not currently connected to the sewer. And just to get an idea of the magnitude of cost, if everyone was to connect to the sewer, and it's roughly $22,000 to $29,000 per property.
How many properties?
2,300.
Change.
Ain't happening anytime soon.
But just on an average basis per property, it's $22,000 to $29,000. So for some, it would be less if they're close to where there's an existing sewer, or it could be more if there's pump stations involved for any specific property. But on a whole, it's that magnitude of cost. Any questions on the report?
No.
So, Mr. Burr, what exactly does this mean then? Is this our policy? Are we changing policy?
Well, so the question comes back to the Township Council. Obviously, the last sewer master plan dates back to 2003. This revision was commissioned and is now completed. If the Township Council accepts the draft, it can move from draft to being the sewer master plan. What would then need to take place would be the changes in municipal code. The ordinances would have to be prepared that Alec referenced that are going to change. Not everything would change, and not everything's in the municipal code, but those things that are would have to be updated. So that process would probably initiate in 2020.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but when the auditor, not Julie, Valerie was here, she said the more people that could connect, the better for us. Is that how
Economy of scales.
I've heard that
More
before.
people paying into the system, the better.
That kind of didn't work.
The better.
I wouldn't plan around that.
It depends upon the approach, and if, in the report, as Alec touched upon, there's a variety of different ways that expansion can take place. That comes to a policy question. Is it something where people want to fund their own, connection? Obviously, the connection fee is a subject for further discussion this evening, but if there's a group of people that are willing to, do a project through an assessment of different proportions, it's not a one-size-fits-all answer with expansion. There's a lot of different philosophical ways it can be approached.
To sewer the entire town is like almost cost prohibitive.
Oh, absolutely, it was.
Unless the federal government wants to give us some money, which I doubt.
Yeah, no, pennies on the dollar like in the 70s, I don't think that's happening again, but to have a plan in order to affect the process moving forward, I believe it's the goal of the governing body, and certainly it's the goal of myself, to be able to have a concrete answer based on something when this question is posed, as it's been discussed, it often is posed.
Right, so we can no longer say we don't have the capacity because that is an untrue statement.
Provided the council moves forward with the plan as it's prepared, correct.
We have to adopt that sewer master plan.
My recommendation would be to accept it. I don't think there has to be any formal action. The formal action would follow with the ordinances.
Right, because you would have to change some of the ordinances to
Reflect what's in the plan, correct. But the philosophical concept of having adequate capacity when asked the question, if the council through consensus says we accept the plan, we'll move the plan from draft to final, post it on the website, distribute it, and move forward with the revisions and ordinance.
And we're sure based on this that it's there. It's not like there's going to be a mistake.
He's a professional engineer. They put a lot of time and effort into this.
I know, but mistakes happen. And that's why I just want to make sure that it's really there.
This took, 5 months?
About that.
How do surrounding towns affect us at all with sewering? Because just like
Lincoln Park is
one
built
street
out.
over, Riverdale is a different sewer authority, right? So do you guys...
That stuff is flowing this way.
No, I know, but I'm just saying I had a conversation with you that made me think of it. That's why I just wonder how other projects in, say, Riverdale or Lincoln Park affect...
The TBSA only has certain amount of capacity.
Right.
And most of the towns are all built out at this point. The only town that's not built out is Pequannock. TBSA does have the capacity to handle Pequannock, you're just going to pay for it. Because if you go above that 1,200,000 gallons, you're going to pay for it, that's all.
Yeah, no, I get that. I guess I was wondering more from this...
I think the bigger question is, or the bigger thing here is, are we going to change our ordinance to say, basically, if you want to hook up to the sewer and you can afford paying for it, then you can hook up to the sewer. That's what it's coming down to.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, because we are not going to fund any more sewers, not for a long time.
We're going to be able to afford to...
But according to your report, you think safe is 40% more of the town could be sewered?
Yes.
So if I live on a side street between the boulevard and the turnpike, and the boulevard or the turnpike has sewers, and I get enough of my neighbors together to bring the sewers down the side street, we could do that.
Yes.
And the how-to would be within the plan.
Very, very expensive.
But that's a cost that they would bear.
Right, I understand that, but I'm not going to go to my neighbor and say, look, you want to spend $30,000, I'll spend $30,000. How about the guy over there, he'll spend $30,000. Not happening.
And who oversees all that when someone does that?
The town would have to, I would think. It's our sewers.
They could do it a couple of different ways. A developer, for example, would have to design a system with our approval and post bonds.
So say Dave wanted to do it and he got his neighbors involved and they would hire a company.
They could come to the council and say, well, they could come to the council and say, hey, listen, we've agreed, we'll sign an agreement with the township. If you do this as a municipal project, we will pay for it. And there would be a way to handle that. Or it could be done as a private project under the authority of our
But if it's done as municipal, then they have the more
Prevailing
expensive
wage.
prevailing wage.
And they have to post a bond.
Right, so they don't want to do it municipally, they want to do it independently, and
They still have to post a bond. It's been done in other places. I've seen it done in other places. There's basically two options, and those are them what they can do.
So this is not unusual, it's been done this way
sounds like we're
before.
opening a door.
It's the council's prerogative.
Well, there's certainly more capacity, obviously.
And
Well, that's
that
the
change
good
would be
news. The good news
affected by
is there's
accepting
more
the
capacity.
policy. That wouldn't need to be done via ordinance. That's not articulated in municipal code.
Right, so this, I just found this on my desk today. So do we get a chance to like review it, or is this,
I disseminated it a couple weeks ago and notified everyone via email.
oh, did it come on email?
I notified by an email that was in the drawers 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I found it.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know about family problems.
If I could just interject, the current code does already allow for the different the different means of extending the sewer. So that's already in the code. That wouldn't be changed. It's just the policy decision of whether or not there's enough capacity to allow those extensions. But the actual means for those to be done is already codified,
And you're telling us that there is enough.
based on our
So
analysis.
it's just the
there is.
capacity issue.
Yes.
Yeah, but there's other things involved.
So if the council wants to accept the report, we can accept the report and move forward. If the council chooses not
Well,
to accept the
I
report...
apologize, I have not had time to read it due to my father-in-law's illness, so I can't accept it at this point.
All right, what do you want to do?
I'm okay with accepting it.
I'm okay with it.
We're not adopting it, right? We're just accepting it.
We're accepting it, yeah.
I'd like more time to review
There'll
it.
be an ordinance that'll come your way
Right.
to implement it.
I think I'd like a little more time to review it.
I mean,
Okay with it.
Next meeting?
next meeting, definitely, we should be able to.
Yeah, it works for me.
Does that work for everybody, that next meeting we could?
Yeah, I apologize for my father-in-law.
Does that mean Alec has to come back next meeting, or?
Well, it's up to the council. I can schedule it for discussion, I can schedule it for a resolution.
I don't think we need Alex back, he's basically telling us we got more capacity, is really what it comes down
Hey,
to.
he's really good at telling us that. He
And if
saved
the
us
report
Like I said, I just want to make sure
Yeah.
there really is capacity, but we're accepting the
So,
expert.
by you reading this,
Yeah.
you think you're going to find out if there's more capacity?
No, I've looked at
I
it.
want to look at what the master plan is on this,
Yeah,
because now you're
Do we
telling
want to do the
entire-
ordinance to implement it too at the next meeting?
yeah, probably.
Introduction, do we have time to introduce? Yeah.
What are we introducing?
Well, if we accept the plan, there are things in the plan, in our code that need to change to reflect the new plan. A fair number of things in our code that need to change.
Right, so I want to
Do we
take a
need
look
to
at
do that
this.
right away? Or by us accepting it?
It's not automatic. We still have it, just as a technical matter, we have to adopt the ordinance.
Can you give
You'll
us-
see when you get the ordinance, it's a lot of little stuff. Like it refers to the new master plan, and it refers to things in the new master plan, and it updates. It's really essentially an update. It's a technical update of our code.
So if we accept it tonight,
No, we can accept it at the next meeting and also introduce that ordinance, or we can hold the ordinance till next year, whichever.
Right.
That's our
Based
alternative.
upon the meeting schedule, there's really only 2 meetings left.
Right.
Where I'd be
To add.
comfortable.
So we would
recommending
have
a
to
public
introduce-
hearing, because the second meeting in December is during the day, and that...
So if we introduced it at the, if we introduced it at the next meeting, then
Okay,
we
so-
could adopt it in December.
Bring the ordinances also, that
Yes.
gives us
Yep.
time to review this, then we can look.
And actually, you can take a look at the ordinance at the same time, and that may raise some
Right.
questions also, which
Yeah.
would be good to have as part of the
well,
discussion.
I think that is
Right.
good.
So is
to
that
have
enough
as part of-
time to change the ordinances?
Yes, we have it ready to go.
You do?
Yeah.
They have them ready printed, Dave.
Well, Alex did a lot of work. That was part of the work that was done, figuring out what parts of our code.
Yeah, I like it when we have the ordinance, it shows what it is and what the changes are going to be.
Yeah, okay.
So we can see both.
But if there wasn't an appetite, I didn't want to
Right.
schedule that for tonight's discussion. I wanted to see what
Right.
the council's position was on the plan as a whole.
So it sounds like we
good.
can do both at the next meeting.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Just, can I clarify this, just in case, we're going to introduce them, we're going to present them for introduction? Okay.
Yep.
And that will be on the 26th.
Thank you very much, Alex.
Thanks, Alex.
You don't have to come back, right? We're telling
No, I don't think.
I don't, unless the council feels it's...
I don't need
Do
him.
we pay him if he comes back?
I don't need him. I'm sure he's not here for free.
No, if you have questions, you can funnel them to Adam before the next meeting, and then he can,
Funnel to Alex, sure.
right? So I don't think you have to come back.
Okay.
Carl, you're good with him not coming back?
Thank you, sir.
Yes, I'm fine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alex, the door's that way.
Are you trying to kick him out
No,
already?
he's probably going to charge us for it.
Look at the beautiful plan he made.
At this time, are there any reports or comments from volunteers serving our community? Seeing none? The next item on the agenda is public comment. This public comment period will be limited to a total of 30 minutes. An additional period of public comment will be reserved for later in the meeting. Individuals are requested to limit their questions to 3 minutes. If anyone wishes to address the council, please wait to be recognized, come to the microphone, and provide your name and address for the record. Yes, sir.
Peter Schmidt, 16 Manor Avenue. If you elect to decline this master plan and say we don't want to do that, what would happen?
We don't know, we haven't even read it yet.
The current plan would remain in effect.
And would it have an effect, or is it on self-autopilot and it will go that way? I mean, do you have a choice?
Yeah, we have a choice, we don't have to accept it.
And then what would happen?
Well, the big change is, under the current plan, they do not allow, most individual connections are not allowed if it's not in certain parts of town. So the amendment to the plan, the big effect, practical effect of the amendment to the plan, if you have individual properties that want to be able to request to connect, and they're not within just certain designated parts of town, they'll be able to do that because now there'll be capacity.
But even with this plan, anybody is allowed to not to connect forever.
Right, this
For the
plan
rest of
does
them?
does not mandate connections. That's not what this is about. It allows them. Yep.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Any other public comment? No? So next on the agenda is manager's report. Mr. Brewer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item A is presentation from Mr. Mitigan, so obviously we've covered that. Item B, sewer utility rates. Included in the packet under this memo was the analysis. The ordinance is scheduled for consideration later this evening. PV park rates, that's a discussion item that's scheduled for later this evening, just to confirm the direction of council is being accurate. Shade tree ordinance, as was previously discussed by the chairperson of the Shade Tree Commission, there was consideration of an ordinance establishing a requirement for decals. Draft was prepared, it was reviewed by the Shade Tree Commission. Shade Tree Commission shared some further comments, which generated additional discussion, which is back in the Shade Tree Commission's lap. So upon a consensus being reached, the ordinance will be scheduled for the council's consideration at a future meeting. Item E, donation of electronic scoreboard, also scheduled for discussion later. There was a rendering included in the packet. I don't want to short-circuit the meeting and fast forward to that item before we get there. Item F, the FEMA preliminary flood information rate maps appeal. We have finally heard from the National Institute of Building Sciences, and they are looking to convene a scientific resolution panel. One of the questions posed to me was, does the township want to have one panel, or the Borough of Lincoln Park and the Township of Montville have also filed for an SRP, so we could have a joint panel? In an effort to prepare for this conversation, as I articulated on my manager's report, based upon input from the professionals who have guided us through this process, their recommendation is that our circumstances are different than the Township of Montville, the Borough of Lincoln Park, so we should request to have an individual SRP. I don't want to make that decision in a vacuum, so I want to confirm with council if there's any other thoughts.
Is the water different in Lincoln Park for flood water?
No, but I think...
It's a different modeling issue.
Also,
It all comes down to the technical data and what the heck RAS models come.
Also, wasn't there something about you get to pick who's on that panel?
Yeah, we get three.
The number of people, so that might change if you all sudden do a joint one too.
There would have to be some element of consensus among
and like you said, our circumstances are different. I think we want to do it independent of the other towns.
Right, that's my recommendation along with Mr. Scupian's and Ms. McCulloch's, but again, I just want to confirm it with the governing body before
Kyle?
the response.
I agree.
I agree.
Yeah, I'm good. All right.
I agree. Meeting schedule, also scheduled for discussion. Ms. Marsh will lead on that one. As has been previously reported in electronic mail, the Bark Park is now open again at Foothills Park. Anybody interested in participating in the Bark Park, come to the Parks and Recreation Department. And lastly, the report from the Department of Parks and Recreation is included. Those are all the items, Mr. Mayor, on my report.
Can I just ask you real quick, Adam?
Sure.
I know the Bark Park is back open. Is everything back, like, fixed and everything? Everything from fencing to...
Yeah, with respect to the Bark Park, yes, everything's fixed. We're working on the shooting range. It was used by one of the groups. We're trying to get that back up to snuff, and that may be back in operation as well.
Good.
So I think the reason Melissa's asking is I think someone from the Boy Scouts reached out to us.
Yeah.
There is a Eagle Scout project that they're looking for. I guess they reached out to Parks and Rec, and Parks and Rec really didn't have anything, so we're reaching out to you now to see if you...
Yeah, we're telling them to
Yeah, if you want to
contact
funnel that
you.
individual to me, I can circulate it across all departments and double check, because based on my review of the Bark Park, there's always a chance for more obstacles.
Yeah, we were thinking things at the Bark Park,
A little
and
more fun,
there was some other...
possibly PV, who knows?
Yeah.
I'm surprised the Parks and Rec couldn't come up with anything.
That's what we were told, so I don't know how...
I'm happy to dialogue with the interested scout and see if there's something we can come up with.
All right.
Who's the point of contact on that? Should I follow up with anybody, or will they follow up with me?
I'll give it to you after this meeting. I have it here somewhere.
Great.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I forgot the name.
Murphy? Michelle?
Oh, yes, that's who it was. It was
Murphy.
Michelle.
Okay. Do you know what's...
Troop that is?
Yeah, Troop that is.
Is it-
I don't know.
is that 144?
Michelle,
I'll follow.
yeah.
I have her
Melissa
number here.
can get her number. All right, next is public hearings, and there are no scheduled public hearings for this evening. Next on the agenda is ordinances for introduction. Ms. Marsh.
Ordinance number 2019-14 is an ordinance to amend Chapter 3, Section 32310 of the Code of the Township of Pequannock, providing for payments through EFT methods and amending claimant signature requirements for the payment of bills and demands.
Mr. Brewer.
This is a welcome to the 21st century municipal government ordinance. Essentially, the local finance board, which governs how we operate from a financial transactions perspective, has changed what's allowed. In 2018, they made some revisions to the rules, so now we're allowed to make certain payments through EFT, as well as allowed to make certain payments without having a claimant certification on the purchase order. So essentially what that means is we can establish an account with Verizon, and instead of sending checks that get misapplied to different accounts, we can have a portal and we can apply it directly, pay over the internet. With respect to the certifications, the way the ordinance is currently drafted, anything that's identified or purchased under $1,000 wouldn't require a claimant certification. The entire requisition and purchase order process has to be undertaken as usual. Purchase order gets generated, the widget gets ordered, the widget comes in, the invoice comes in. What then has to happen is it has to go through a whole second set of approval processes where the vendor would then sign off that they sent us the widget that they sent us. So anything under $1,000 or identified in these categories would no longer require that, expediting our ability to pay, just moving the process forward.
Okay.
Is there a motion to introduce this ordinance on its first reading?
I'll make a motion to introduce ordinance 2019-14.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
I think that was Kyle. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Florence Lynch?
Yes.
Mr. Hurd?
Yes.
Mr. Phelan?
Yes.
Mrs. Russell?
Yes.
Mayor Cole?
Yes. Next on the agenda is, for introduction, is ordinance 2019-15. Ms. Marsh.
Ordinance number 2019-15 is an ordinance to amend Chapter 152 of the Code of the Township of Pequannock, Section 15203, building sewers, connections, fees, public sewer system extension.
Mr. Brewer, any comments?
This is an ordinance to increase the sewer fees as previously discussed, specifically the connection fee, and the sewer rents.
No other comments from council?
No, just, I know we sent letters out of, was it the connection fee? And I just wondered, have you had a lot of people
Three
call?
or four people have come in and made the decision to connect us.
I mean, that's really it. I just want to make sure that word gets out to those people.
All right.
Sounds like it did.
So let me ask you a question. The Legion down the street, because Lou said that they weren't prepared for that. If they make partial payment
Or a hardship case.
in 2019,
The ordinance doesn't currently provide for any hardship or partial payments.
so being that if they start making a payment in 2019, it doesn't give them the right to pay the current fee?
Bob, I don't believe it would.
It doesn't. Let's look and see if there's a way to, Adam and I will look and see if there's a way to do that, if that's the council's wish that we do so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say so.
That's fair.
I agree.
Is there an objection to applying that across the board? There are other similarly situated not-for-profits?
Of course not.
Yeah.
I think I'm fine with that.
Okay.
You guys fine with that?
That's good.
Yeah, for not-for-profits, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess is there a motion to introduce ordinance on its first reading?
I'll make a motion, I guess.
Is there a second?
Okay.
I'll make the second. Roll call.
Mrs. Florence Lynch?
Yes, hesitantly.
Mr. Hurd?
Begrudgingly, yes.
Mr. Phelan?
I'm going to vote yes, but that doesn't mean I'm going to vote yes when we go to do the final on this one.
Mrs. Russell?
I'm going to vote yes also.
Mayor Cole?
Yes.
We're not happy about this, board.
No, that's all right. Well, it has to be done.
If the mayor and council don't mind, I'll just revisit the issue. Unfortunately, it's an action that's required, otherwise the dispersion of the costs would be beyond those who are part of the sewer utility. So although it's an unfortunate action, it is something that is necessary. The council can choose not to adopt the ordinance, but unfortunately that case would result in the utility running into the red. And if the utility wasn't able to recover those costs, the cost for the sewer would bleed into those individuals who don't currently have sewers.
And we understand that. We still don't think it's right.
I don't disagree with the fact that it's an unfortunate reality, but
Wow.
the alternative is that which was just outlined.
So it's just literally rammed down our throat.
Yeah, I think we just have to be really, really careful with our numbers going forward and just, dotting all the i's and crossing all the t's.
Agreed.
Right, this is why we brought up the conversation that none of the town is going to get sewered after this.
Right.
At least not
Yeah,
in the next
exactly.
bunch of years.
We got to make sure.
All right, next on the agenda are items for discussion.
Resolution.
For approval.
No, sorry. Next item on the agenda is resolutions. Ms. Marsh.
Beginning with Resolution R 2019-221, authorizing memberships in the North Jersey Wastewater Cooperative Pricing System, NJWCPS. 2019-222, authorizing the transfer of 2019 municipal budget appropriations. 2019-223, removing sewer assessment in totality and refunding what has been paid to date for Aqua Properties LLC. 2019-224, authorizing tax office refunds, overpayments, or cancellations. 2018-225, approving payment of the itemized claims as set forth on the November 7th, 2019 bill list, and the November 7th, 2018, 2015, and 2016 FEMA elevation escrow list.
Can you tell me what this wastewater cooperative pricing is?
The
I guess we
township,
could buy wastewater cheap.
the township is a member of a number of cooperative pricing groups, most notably the Morris County Cooperative Pricing Council and Morris County Co-op. Essentially, it just establishes our membership to a group that's already gone through the competitive bidding process and allows the Public Works Department to be able to select from a menu, as they do from 3 or 4 other co-ops that we're members of. And it's if it makes sense, if it's something that we can get and not have to go through a bidding process and the price is good, it allows us to buy it without going through a process that's already been undertaken.
All right. Any other comments from council on the resolutions?
You're right, so just on 223, just want to make it known that we are paying back out of the sewer authority, is that correct?
Sewer utility.
There are sewer, yes, I'm sorry. What is that, 17,000, 5,000, and another 17,000? That's why we're not making any money. That's it. Go ahead.
Any other comments?
No.
Is there a motion to adopt these resolutions?
I'll make a motion to adopt Resolution R 2019-221 through R 2019-225.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Florence Lynch?
Yes.
Mr. Hurd?
Yes.
Mr. Phelan?
Yes.
Mrs. Russell?
Yes.
Mayor Cole?
Yes. Next on the agenda is items for discussion. We have 4 of them.
Yes.
You want to take it?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Previously, direction was given to prepare an ordinance establishing the fees for PV Park. The direction, as I understood it, was all fees to increase by 15%, rounding up to the nearest dollar, and the group rate to increase from $3 per child per day to $6 per child per day for a full day, and $2 to $4 for a half day. I just wanted to confirm with council prior to scheduling this for potential introduction that the ordinance reflects what council intended to be prepared.
I believe so.
I believe so, too.
Okay.
Was that
Just
$2 to $4 for the Boys and Girls Club?
for half day. For the Boys and Girls Club for a full day, they doubled as well.
I didn't think we were raising the Boys and Girls Club.
I don't think it says that in here.
It does. All fees increased by 15%, rounded up to the nearest dollar. So that fee increased by 15%, rounded up to the nearest dollar. That's what the ultimate result was.
Where did I see it?
Group rates is on page 2, 3, A. Second section, nonprofits annual, 288 facility use fee plus, $3 per child per day for full, $2 per child per day for half. Existing ordinance is behind it.
So $2 per child per half day.
Correct. And $3 per child per full day.
They don't go full days.
Right.
They go half, and what are they paying now?
$1 per child per half day.
I didn't think that's what they paid.
What was $1.50 for some reason?
Are you sure those
The
numbers
current
are-
ordinance is behind it on page 2 of the current ordinance. Nonprofit groups annually, $1 per child per half day.
What is that?
There you go.
Okay, so we only raised it $1 for them.
Yeah.
Again, it was raised 50%, rounded up to the nearest dollar, so that was applied to every
Okay.
fee. with the
Yeah.
exception
I
of
just
those
didn't, I just didn't think we
Park.
discussed Boys and Girls Club, but I'm fine with that.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to confirm direction
They
with
just
council
weren't
by
the same as
doing the whole thing.
Regular
and bringing it back.
nonprofit.
Right.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm good.
So the 288, that's a 15% increase, is that where that
Correct.
came from? That was 250, I think?
Correct.
Okay. All right.
If everyone's okay with it, I'll schedule
I'm okay with it.
introduction at the next meeting.
Yeah, looks good.
Thank you. The next item, as discussed or identified in my manager's report, a resident reached out to the Little League group who was interested in donating a scoreboard for Washington Park Field number 2. A rendering of the scoreboard was included in the packet and includes the name of the scoreboard above it. As mentioned in the memo, absent any policy or practice, I wasn't sure what to do with this discussion with Bob and others. I wanted to bring it to council to see if number one, it's something that we wanted to accept or perhaps suggest any alterations.
I love it.
Or two, if there was anything we wanted to maybe do publicly because of the size of the donation. It is
Definitely
estimated to be
publicly.
approximately
Yeah.
$10,000 in value. The
Definitely.
corresponding pledge for maintenance moving forward.
Yeah, no, I think it's wonderful. It's a nice Nice gesture.
Yeah, and I was asked if...
We could do something at opening day.
Yeah.
Sure. Or the councils, both, whatever the council's pleasure.
I think probably it'd be better at open day.
At opening day, I think this
Absolutely.
would be better.
And there was a request from the Public Works Department for a capital appropriation to update the scoreboard there, so this would be in place of that, therefore saving tax dollars. It's a wonderful thing that he's willing to do this.
I guess the only thing is, I did see something in there about maintaining it or something.
Yes.
I mean, something might happen where...
Well, he's on the hook. He's still gonna
He's
maintain it.
pledged to me,
He's
obviously, we'll work collaboratively.
Yeah.
No one's gonna hang
Well, that's what I mean. I don't,
Yeah, no.
you know, because I know the intentions are great there.
Right.
And I just don't want to see him get stuck with something that he shouldn't.
No, we'll work collaboratively with the Public Works Department and the resident.
I guess my question is, I was under the impression that Little League paid for those scoreboards. So why was there a request sent to us?
It wasn't from Little League, it was from the Department of Public Works.
Whereas if they can get the money from us, Dave, get it.
I mean, that would come out through the budget vetting process, so
Right.
we haven't gotten there yet. I just want to identify that with something that is marked for replacement. So it's a timely donation, potential donation.
Can you ask Public Works why it was in their budget? I mean, what happens if Field 3 goes bad now? Are we expected to pay
I'm
for
gonna buy
that?
that one.
In other words, if another scoreboard or something needs to be replaced, who's
Yeah, I was under
responsible?
the impression that Little
was-
League purchased those.
I think in the past
Why is
they
it coming
did.
out of our budget?
I don't know, I can have that conversation with Public Works and be prepared with an answer as we move through the
Yeah,
budget
that's
process.
a good heads up.
But
Unless we did buy them, but I'm not aware that we bought them, but I thought it was through
I can get
Little League. Okay.
The design-wise, though, council's as consensus is fine with it?
Yeah, no,
other
I
issues?
think it's great.
Okay. Very good, thank you.
If it could match the one that's on Field 1 already, is that what they're planning on doing?
I don't know.
Because there's a new, I think a new scoreboard on
Oh, is
Field
it?
1.
Yeah, I don't know how that picture, that rendering, corresponds with the other one. But I'm sure that's what they're trying to do, except, making it in memory of him.
Dial-a-ride, trustees appointment?
Ms. Marsh?
Yes, there's currently a vacancy on the Dial-A-Ride Board, and I know it's the council's policy to appoint people in January and June, but in this particular case, it leaves the board without representation from the township, because it's 5 towns. We only have one representative, and it's vacant right now. So Mr. Coriel requested that the appointment be made early. I mean, he made a recommendation for one of the applicants.
And
So that
the budget is currently being
Right.
discussed by the board of Dial-A-Ride,
Right.
so that's why it's also a time.
So right now, they need to take action on stuff before the end of the year.
Correct.
And I saw on the memo, it said department recommendation, so that's just one person's recommendation? Like,
It is just one person.
I am just wondering, because I know there was more than
I was gonna say, how
one
many people
applicant.
applied for the job?
Two. Both of
Right, I
they were in the email.
I guess the recommendation, she's been a dispatcher for 5 years for
Yeah.
Dial-A-Ride, so I guess she knows, and I guess, I'm not
Yeah.
speaking for Pete, but I guess
Yeah.
that's why he's recommending that person.
Right. I mean, I don't have a problem with it, I
What
just
do you want
want
us
to
to
make
do?
sure.
You can either, I want to know whether you're going to accept Mr. Coriel's recommendation, because I know we don't want to discuss names here.
I'm okay with accepting it. Is anybody else against accepting it, or?
No, it's not that I'm against it, I just wasn't sure how the vetting, went, and I knew there was more than one, so I just wanted to
Yeah,
make sure.
like any other appointment, it's the council's prerogative who they appoint.
Right.
I was just passing on
But
what
that was the
information I had.
recommendation from Dial-A-Ride and from,
No, it was just from Pete.
well, actually, it was just from one person, so, I mean, I don't.
I guess Pete
know.
oversees Dial-A-Ride for all 5 towns?
He functions essentially like an executive director.
Okay. I mean, I don't have a problem with that, I just wanted to make sure it was a fair process, that's all.
I don't have a problem.
So I put it on the agenda for the next
Ryan,
council meeting?
what do you want to do?
I'm okay with it.
Taking Pete's recommendation?
Did you send us the copy of both applications?
Yes.
I have it here if you want.
Rich, you're okay with accepting it? Seems like everybody's okay. Am I speaking correctly?
Yes.
Everyone's okay with accepting Pete's recommendation?
I will put it on the next agenda, thank you.
All right, and then next is meeting dates. I think that's you too, Ms. Marsh?
That is me too. So the first part is there's a draft, in the very last page of the agenda, is a draft of the meetings for next.
Are you going to read off all the dates?
No. If I did, I would make a mistake and then I would feel stupid.
So, it's just normal, the second and fourth Tuesday.
Is there anything that's different about?
The only concern I think she had was, is everyone okay with meeting December 22nd?
Yeah, that's fine.
I think it's far enough away from Christmas that, you know.
Did we change the schedule for this year?
Yes, I think it's 1
date.
o'clock on the 20th, isn't my correct?
20th, yes.
And then, is the time correct?
It's 1 o'clock on the 20th?
1 PM on the 20th.
That's a Friday,
Wait a second. I'm lost.
So I guess,
That's for 2019.
December 20th of this year, because our regular council meeting is December 24th. You might want to be here, but I'm not going to be here on December 24th.
I would love to be here on
I'm going to be at
December
Dave's house on the 24th.
yeah, so everybody's comfortable that the 22nd next year is next year, Christmas is that Friday. So we're talking meeting Tuesday at regular time.
At regular time.
Everybody's okay with that?
There are no,
Too far away.
there were,
I'm still on December 20th at 1.
you can change it. It's just if it was obviously a problem. But this particular year, none of the regular council meetings fall on holidays.
Right.
They don't fall during the league. There's
Yeah, that's fine.
nothing
I'm fine
that
with it.
precludes
We
them.
did change the 20, this year.
We did.
Last year at this time.
We did.
Say that one again.
Yes, we did.
I mean, not unless somebody wants to move it to 1
Kind
o'clock.
of like baseball there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care. I mean, I'm probably going to be off that week, so,
We could also change that till 1 o'clock, but we don't have to decide now.
right.
You don't, but the reason we're asking now is because it goes to the calendar.
Right.
That gets distributed to the residents.
Oh, okay.
So while this is approved at the reorg meeting, it's sort of nice
Try to put
if
as
we
much
do
as
the
we
best we
could.
can to get it right.
See how many town members are here.
So which day are we
So
talking?
you want to meet at 1 o'clock or leave it at 7?
What do you want to do?
It's a year away.
Friday the
Next
20th?
year? No. That's already been established.
We're in the next
We are
year.
meeting at 1 o'clock, December 20th, 2019.
Check, got
We are
that.
asking December 22nd of 2020.
That's a freaking year away.
You want to meet at 7 o'clock?
Or at
you want to
1
meet at 1 o'clock?
7 o'clock.
Or you could do it the Friday before at 1 o'clock, and that would give everybody the option of taking that week off.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I don't.
I mean,
It's a year away.
nothing very big usually happens at that meeting. You can't introduce ordinances, and people are reluctant to adopt them because it doesn't look good.
And just,
What do you want to do? You got it?
I'm fine with whatever the group decides.
I'm fine with whatever she wants.
Right, I'm fine, whatever they want.
good unless somebody has a real need.
You going to be away?
Nope.
You planning on being away?
I serve at the council's pleasure.
Plans on running away.
I'll be where-
I mean, if everybody would like that week off, you can easily move it.
Come on.
Should we leave it the 22nd, the regular
it.
second and fourth? That's
22nd.
fine.
Everybody seems to be fine.
January 20, Tuesday, January.
And everybody's going to call in sick.
We won't have a quorum.
Too complicated.
That was way too complex.
Okay, the next question is, we do need to set the date of the reorg, which has to be the first week in January.
Why don't we do the
Second?
4th?
Third? No, I'm away on the 4th. Has to be second or third.
Well, the 2nd is a Saturday, the 3rd is a Sunday.
Wait, no.
No.
January.
January. The second is a Thursday, the third is a Friday.
Wait a minute.
You're still in 2020?
Yeah, the 2nd is a Thursday.
2021 at that point.
Okay, so the 2nd is a Thursday, the 3rd is a Friday, is that what?
Yes.
Is that right?
And it has to be done by what date?
I think we could do it up to the 7th.
Days, right?
So you could do it Monday or Tuesday even?
It doesn't say
It says the first week.
That's right, we don't know whether it's a calendar
first
week.
full
or
week or the
full-
first, yeah, so that's why they make it think.
I would stretch it to say you could do it up to the 7th. For 7
You could
days.
do it the 7th. Do it on the 7th.
I'm not around.
Do it on the 2nd, guys.
Yeah, do it on the 2nd.
It's a
Second?
fast meeting, it's half hour long.
Do you want to do it?
2nd?
January 2nd?
Thursday?
Whatever.
6 PM is when you typically do it? Do you want to do it 6 or 7?
6 PM is fine.
6 is fine.
Okay. And then the last...
Wait, what did we decide?
6 o'clock on
I'm
the
sorry,
second.
I won't ask you for anything, I'll just put it out there, that every year you have at least one and usually 2 special meetings to discuss council appointments.
Right.
I know that would be really tough to come up with those right now, I just...
Yeah, we do that in December.
Usually.
Yep. So let's come up with a date
I mean,
for
December's
that.
coming really fast this year.
You want to do the 3rd and the 11th?
December...
3rd is a Tuesday, the 11th is a Wednesday.
I can't do the,
I think I'm away.
How am I in 2018?
how about the 3rd and the 17th? Oh, no, that's,
December.
How about the 3rd and the 20th after your meeting? Or during the meeting?
oh,
Or
that,
you could have a special meeting at noon or a special meeting following that one?
That sounds good.
What year?
what
Oh, on the
date?
20th?
What date?
On the 20th,
Oh, right after 1 o'clock? That's a good idea.
Or before.
Or before.
or before.
We could order lunch.
I'm looking at the wrong thing.
Okay, so we're going to December
Right.
20th, right here.
That's a Friday.
That's when we have our meeting.
Right.
Oh, okay.
That's at 1 o'clock.
Are you available that day, Melissa?
Is that the same day
I'm
as the
good.
Christmas party?
Yeah,
the
that's what,
24th.
got it. That was one of the changes. All right, I'm with you. All right, on the 20th, we'll do one, and when's the other?
3rd and the 20th?
The 20th at noon?
Yeah, that'll work.
Okay.
So the 20th is at noon and then at 1 o'clock.
You have a meeting, a regular meeting at 1 and a special
Good
meeting
thing
at noon.
Good thing I didn't
Why don't
plan
we make it
anything.
11:30?
11:30?
Give us
Sure.
enough time.
11:15.
Yeah, we may have Christmas lunches that day.
Oh, that's,
If we could organize a town Christmas party the same day,
And
we
this-
can have our special meeting, lunch, and then go to a regular meeting.
And are we doing December 3rd?
Yes.
So what time would everyone, 6 o'clock? 6 o'clock on December 3rd. Carol, you'll send out those dates?
I will.
I was going to say, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Everybody's
please
so
do.
confused.
I'm scribbling in my book here.
On December 3rd.
All right, next on the agenda is reports and notices, and there are none. Next on the agenda is council reports and announcements. Councilwoman Florence Lynch.
We pretty much touched on everything that I was going to bring up. So this is all covered. So senior advisory, they did not have a meeting this past month because it was election day, but I know that Adam had reported to all of us. He met with a couple people from the Senior Advisory Committee, and they went over some processes and things, so that was a good meeting.
Yes.
I also saw that there's now a new process for reserving the senior house online. I saw something come out on
They're
that.
working to automate it. The policy remains the same, it's just the ability to do it electronically.
Yeah, so that was good. All right, so they are not having a meeting in December, so no senior advisory meeting in December, except they are having a luncheon, which is on, I think they invited you to that, right? Or is that the one in January? Okay.
January 6th, I thought it was.
Yeah. Economic Development, they also did not meet at the last meeting, but their meeting will be on the 4th Wednesday this month. I just want to see if they're meeting. They're probably not meeting this month because it's the 25th. So I'm going to have the chair of Economic Development reach out to you, Carol, because if they're going to cancel it, you can, put up a note on the website unless they're going to move it. I have not heard. And the Flood Committee is meeting this week at 7:30. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Councilman Hurd.
Let's see, I'd like to first thank PAC 144, Cub Scouts, the Weeblos, for coming in earlier today for a tour of what we do in government. That was a lot of fun. Just another point of clarification, my open space meeting was last night. There were some questions about leaf depository that we spoke about. Just want to make sure that we're all in compliance with that leaf where we bring our leaves on the other side of 23. That is correct.
That is correct. It is a permitted facility by the NJDEP, and it is on a piece of property that is unfunded by Green Acres.
All right, so we're good there.
Correct.
One other thing from historic, there was an incident, so there was a question about the cameras. I know we spoke about this as well. Do we have a time frame or timeline on when potentially cameras could go on Martin Bury House?
There's a meeting scheduled for Thursday between the society and operations staff to go over how to do it, so it's moving forward with all possible speed.
So that's not part of the bid?
Right, it's outside of it, right?
It's outside.
Okay.
Okay. But any idea like how long it will take as far as the process?
I don't know.
Okay.
The Historical Society has the tenant who's kind of managing the building, is working with us, so they're the ones taking lead on it. I can circle back after the meeting to get an idea.
Okay. I just want to make sure our asset is protected, that's all. That's all I have, thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Phelan.
Dave, are you going to mention about the PBA on November 24th? Or?
At the reloaders?
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
Okay. So on
That looks like
November
fun.
24th from 8 to 12, I believe it is. I believe that's a Sunday. You can go to Reloaders and shoot with a cop. I think the cost is $45, and the money's being donated to one of the cancer.
Yes.
Same group, the No Shave November money's being
Right.
donated to.
Yeah, I saw that come over today. It
So
was like fun.
that's November 24th, 8
You know
o'clock
what
in the
time?
morning.
Oh, 8 o'clock in the
8 to
morning.
12 at Reloaders.
Thank you.
It is a
I guess you can
Sunday.
go anytime during then.
Yes.
During
Between
that,
8 and 12,
yeah.
why? You going to be sleeping 8?
No, I'm just saying, because if a lot of people
Sunday.
want to go,
I can't
some
shoot a gun
people will
before
go
I have
at
coffee.
8, and some people can go at 10.
Starbucks right next door.
And
It's open yet.
No,
Don't have
the
too much.
donations are to the John Thorough Cancer Center at Hackensack University Medical Center for Bone Marrow Failure Disease Research. And it is $45, Rich, you are correct. Sounds like a great deal.
No, and actually, for what Reloaders is giving you for $45, it's a good deal. Their ammo's expensive. Oh, sorry. That's it.
Thank you. Councilwoman Russell.
The first aid installation dinner 2 Fridays ago, we all were out. I just want to thank the first aid squad for inviting us all there. It was a lovely event. Yesterday at PV School and Gerace, Melissa, Dave, and I attended veteran ceremonies, which was also very touching. What else? The Morris County Clerk, Ann Grassi, is having a cover contest for all high school students. It's $500 for first place, $250 for second place, $100 for third place. They submit through your high school art teacher. You can go on the county website to see. There's a list of things that you have to do.
I sent it to Angela, she sent it to Rhett Evelyn at the high school. So
Oh, good.
hopefully we'll get somebody from Pequannock to at least...
Yeah.
Not only...
Isn't there a Halcyon High School?
No.
There's got to be.
So not only do you have to do the artwork, you have to come up with what you think should be on the cover.
Right, but you don't have to be an artist because you can do it digitally.
Yeah.
You can do it by hand. You can do it pencil. You can do it painting. So there's, it's
Just make sure it gets back to all the schools.
It's worth a shot.
Well, I sent
It's
it-
for high school
Sent it to the high school.
Okay.
So, and that's it.
Thank you.
Oh, and
ahead.
sorry. And one more thing, I want to stress that we're accepting the application for the committees. So instead of people going on Facebook and complaining about something, maybe think about joining a committee, Peter. Not that you complain, but you're getting involved. Get involved now.
He would make an incredible person. Donate.
No, but I'm saying, you like to get involved. It's
And I talked to him about
It's a
a couple
good way to
committees.
get involved. We, Parks and Rec, environmental, economic. Yeah.
The
Library.
applications are right here.
There's a lot of different ways to get involved in
Here's a
town.
pen.
And they don't meet a lot. They meet once a month. It's an hour, unless.
Yeah, there's applications
That's a lot
up
of
there.
pressure, Mr. Peter.
Call any one of us if you have a question.
Yeah, but I'm just, I know there's not a lot of people here, but if anybody's watching in TV land, but
YouTube link. Millions.
All right, B&J Pizzeria, 50 years in business. They are having a celebration on December 8th, selling slices of pizza for 50 cents a slice.
I'm there.
It's probably going to be bedlam, and they have asked if we could do some sort of ribbon cutting or something that we can, present to them, Carol, so.
That'd be nice.
Carol and I will work on that and come up with,
that's December 8th.
yeah.
So we could be first online then, if we're getting there.
Dave, you might want to mention some of the other new businesses in town.
like the Latin Kitchen, did we mention that?
Chano's Latin Kitchen is open now in the Hometown Market shopping center there.
They can have it.
I love their burritos.
They haven't had one
They
yet.
haven't had a grand opening.
No, they haven't. He's reached out to me. He wanted to do it before Election Day, and I said, because he wants to invite, some assemblymen and Bergado.
Everybody was
and
very
Mike from
busy.
Pompton Lakes.
Right.
Yeah, so I said it might be best if we waited till after Election Day. So yeah, there's a bunch of new businesses in town, so that's great.
Good.
Planning board met on the 4th. Pumpkin Queen was in front of the planning board. They got approval for Phase 1 and Phase 2. Phase 2, it will be done after the sewers on Route 23 go in, so they're going from 185 in seating to 235 in seating. So that is our first redevelopment or improvement on Route 23 once the sewers go in. So I think we're going to see, a number of improvements on Route 23 once it goes in. So we'll see what happens there. We attended the master plan meeting, the public master plan meeting on November 6th, which I thought went very well. A lot of positive comments there. And as Councilwoman Russell said, Melissa, Kyle, and myself attended the PV School Veteran Day ceremony at 10 o'clock, which was very well attended. And then at 1:45, we attended the SJG 3rd grade Veterans Day concert, which was very
That was
nicely
good.
done.
That was
It
really,
moving,
really nicely
you know.
done.
And they recognized veterans at both events, so it was nicely done. So kudos to both of the schools for doing that for the veterans. And that's all I have. Next on the agenda is public comment. Anyone wishes to address the council, please wait to be recognized. Come to the microphone and your name and address for the record. Nick.
Nick DeStefano, 28 Greenwood Ave. Just regarding reserving the senior house online, it's running very smoothly. You actually see the calendar, you click on the day, and then it'll immediately say it'll be pending, and then like within 24, 48 hours, Amy puts it in, and then it's marked down that you have the date. So it's working pretty smoothly.
Good.
Regarding the FEMA, the map appeal, I definitely agree, as a member of the Flood Advisory Committee and somebody that grew up in Lincoln Park, that our situation is definitely very different and unique, and I definitely agree, and I'm sure we'll be discussing this on Thursday about really not moving forward jointly. I think we're definitely better off going on our own on this particular spot, because I just think that especially all these homes that were put in the floodplain is much different than what Lincoln Park and Montville has ever had to deal with. So that's it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nick.
Any other public comment? Seeing none. Are there no minutes to approve, correct? We have closed session. Okay. So next on the agenda is closed session. Is there a motion to approve Resolution 2019-226, authorizing town council to meet in executive session to discuss litigation of Carr versus the Township of Pequannock?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? At this time, the public portion of the meeting is recessed to closed session.